Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by the big man Bakar to preview Gameweek 5. Bakar, your rank is on screen for all to see, and I can't really say too much. My rank is not great, but at least it's better than yours. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello, Jack. Hello, welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, I mean, last week was, in sync with how the season has been so far, pretty underwhelming. It's now sort of gotten to a point where I sort of feel that the use of the chip is fairly necessary in the coming weeks. Not necessary in this week, given the fixture between City and Arsenal. But yeah, I mean, it's about time that I sort of freshen things up. So, yeah, spoiler alert, I think Game Week 6 wildcard is very likely on the cards.
Wow. So what did you end up doing last week, if you remember back?
I ended up selling Murillo for Lacroix, which
Oh
worked
yeah.
out all right because Murillo got 3 points and a possible injury. Lacroix got me six, so that transfer was fine. Um, but overall, yeah, there've been a few players in the squad which now warrant immediate attention. For example, I was weighing up a potential wildcard next week, and I think I'll probably keep three players, maximum four at
Really?
best,
Okay.
out of the lot I have right now. So Liverpool have Everton at home this week, which obviously is a good fixture for their attack. I would expect Salah to do well. Wirtz, I'm not sure about, but I'll give him a game again this week. But the likes of Tillemans, Jorginho, Strand Larson, Dorgu, I mean, even Porro, I think these are players who I think I'll probably get rid of on the wildcard. Sanchez as well, and Mateta as well, probably. So there are quite a few players I want to get rid of immediately, and it's just the fact that it sort of works really well with the fixture swings for Man City and Arsenal as well. So I can load
Yeah.
up on City and Arsenal, possibly throw a sprinkling of Everton, maybe get Palmer in as well now that he's fit, and sort of refresh my squad. This feels as if there are enough changes which warrant the use of a chip. I mean, I could use the free hit as well alternatively, but I just feel as if these are players I don't think I would want in Game Week 7 anyway, so might as well just wildcard.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I would wildcard this team pretty quickly. Even like, I don't know, even if Strand Larson was fit, it would change things. Not massively because I still would wildcard it, but the team would look better this week if you had Strand Larson home to Leeds instead of, say, like, I don't know, even Rutter, or like you could bench
No.
Esteve or something like that. It would look a lot better. But yeah, I don't know. It's the Tielemans as well. Dorgu for United. I mean, they've been disappointing. It's not. I'm trying to say it's not too far away from a decent team, but I understand what you're saying. Like you would probably change the majority of players, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's not that I regret some of the decisions massively. It's just been a combination of some 50-50 decisions going wrong and some injuries getting in my way. So for example, Strand Larson was a perfectly good pick. Got injured the
Yeah.
wrong time. Tillemans I got in I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, he got injured without doing much. Palmer got injured before that. So, yeah, I mean, I've constantly had to put fires out of my team. And then there were like some 50-50 decisions which went wrong. For example, in the Jorginho spot, I was considering Paqueta. Had I had Paqueta over Jorginho, that would have looked a lot better. Maybe even something like Evan Nelson over Mateta, which would have allowed me to get Romero over Torgu. So these are the swings which look which look very close on paper, but the swings have been massive. So I'm not exactly berating myself too much or beating myself up too much regarding what has gone wrong. I feel as if it's fine. These swings can occur over a period of time. I hope I can just get on the positive side of variance after I wildcard.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll be doing a wildcard team on our episode next week with you. But for this week, are you going to be making a transfer?
I would love to, given the condition of my team. Strand Larson, I don't think will play. Tillemans is pretty much ruled out. But I don't feel as if there's any transfer that I make which will make me immediate gain
In 1 week?
this
Yeah.
week. So for example, I could sell Strand Larson to someone like a Muniz or a Foster, but it doesn't exactly inspire me with much confidence. So I might as well go into the wildcard with two free transfers at
Mm.
my disposal instead of one. So I'll probably just play someone like a Poro instead, which is fine because Poro can always get, some attacking returns or any defensive contributions. It's not the end of the world.
I think it's pretty tough this week to make a viable transfer. If you're really looking at the individual fixtures, I don't think really any of them lend themselves to an upside move, like you just said. I mean, Fulham have a good fixture, but are you really going to go for a Fulham attacker? I mean, I don't know, probably not. So I would agree with you.
See, this is exactly my point. With Arsenal playing City and United playing Chelsea, I mean, these are fixtures which are not exactly ideal, right? So that's why, even though a lot of people are in a similar position as me and they're contemplating a wild card after having a rough start or after having their squad damaged by injuries, I just don't feel as if this is the right week because Liverpool have probably the best standout fixture at home to Everton, and I have double Liverpool in my team, so I feel little reason to go away from the Salah template to the Haaland template this week. I would obviously shift next week because Liverpool have Palace away, and then it's a run of fixtures where I can potentially get away by having Haaland and Palmer over Salah. Yeah, I mean there are no basically standout fixtures this week, like you say. I mean Aston Villa maybe at Sunderland, but Aston Villa have been so bad; their underlying data is terrible. So even that is a fixture I'm sure even the most optimistic Villa fans would not feel sure shot about.
Yeah, that is true. Let's actually have a look at your recommended transfer because I think it's quite interesting this week. The recommendation for you is, although you have one free transfer, actually to take a hit and to sell Strand Larsen and Florian Wirtz for the inform Semenyo and Joao Pedro, which is pretty aggressive. However, if I come down to the chip strategy section down here and set the week that you're going to wildcard, that I think will affect things. So if I put in here that you are going to wildcard in game week 6, then the AI will know that that is your plan. So we'll redo the finding of the transfers. And yeah, there you go. It actually recommends not making a transfer this game week if you're going to wildcard in game week 6. It's a great new feature that we've added this year where if you know exactly when you're going to play your chips, you put them in down here, and then that is obviously very important, and that will affect the recommended transfers because as you've just seen, if you weren't going to wildcard, then the AI is saying, well, we do need some surgery. It's probably worth taking a hit. But if you're wildcarding, then you're looking for 1 week moves only, and the AI is saying here there isn't really one that we think is worth using a transfer on. So good to have that sort of support from the AI, I suppose. Bias. Yeah, exactly. It's what you were thinking anyway. I mean, if there was like one move that you thought, okay, I really am going to go for upside this week. I mean, I've thought about it, looking at all the fixtures. Who is sort of the one player that you think, okay, if someone does want to get aggressive this week and go different or use a transfer on someone that could have a lot of upside? Is there a player that stands out?
Maybe a Liverpool attacker, but with Isak around, I mean, even the minutes for them are muddled for Ekitike, Gakpo. So not entirely sure. I mean, for example, for my team, I mentioned something like Strand Larsen to Muniz or Foster, or maybe even Tillemans to someone like Mitoma. That's something that might work out.
Yeah,
I feel as if Biden would probably score against Spurs and Mitoma's safe for minutes. But generally, I'm actually struggling to pick out too many fixtures with any sort of certain amount of upside this week. Maybe if you can stretch to someone like a Semenyo this week, I guess that's someone who I would get to. But apart from that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, guys, if you would like to get your own AI recommended transfers, you can see at the top of the screen. Use the link below. Make sure, if you know what you're doing with your chips, to come down to this section and put in when you're going to be using each chip. You don't have to do all of them. As you can see, I've just put in for Bakar that he'll be wildcarding in game week 6, and that has affected things. Okay, Bakar, let's get back into your team because I do want to talk a little bit about. It's not that important game week 6, really, because there'll be change for you. You can do whatever you want with a wildcard, obviously, but I want to talk more generally, not just about your team, I think, and about where you see the game going, and Haaland in particular, and Salah, and what people should be thinking about doing with their teams over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so game week 6 is a week where City have a fixture at home to Burnley, and Liverpool are playing away to Palace. Now, obviously, that's a fixture given Haaland's form and pedigree. You'd expect him to do well in. It's coming after the EFL Cup as well, so you're probably expecting Haaland to be coming into this fixture on the back of a 1 week of rest. So switching from a Salah template to a Haaland template by default just makes sense in this week alone. And then I feel as if you can potentially go without Salah for the next 5 to 6 weeks, which works well with the template that you're essentially getting into, because Haaland and Palmer actually trade quite well for captaincy. So when you look at some of the fixtures, City are playing Burnley at home in game week 7. Then Palmer has, for example, Sunderland at home in game week 9, which again is a week where Liverpool have Brentford away. I'm not saying that Salah won't do well, but it's a fixture where you can potentially take Salah on for the captaincy. So looking at that sort of template, I feel as if it works well going forward. I would actually like to touch a bit more on some of the other chip strategies as well, because um, you can, for example, counter argue that maybe triple captaining in game week 6 when Haaland has Burnley at home might be better. I feel as if the wildcard is a much more powerful chip than the triple captain.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure. Yeah.
and if you are in a position where your squad is decimated to the extent that it is for me, then I feel as if you just prioritize the wild card and leave the triple capacity chip for later.
I need to come in on that. I need to come in on that because I think that is an underrated comment. The wild card, the 2 wild cards, are the most important chips that we have in the game by a mile, and it's not even close. They're like 10 times as powerful as a triple captain, a bench boost, whatever. If you think about it, a triple captain is one extra set of points from one player. So if you're going to captain Haaland anyway in game week 6, it's just one more set of points. Whereas a wild card is all 15 of your players being changed, including potentially the captain, and it's sort of permanent for the next X number of weeks. It's the most important chip by a country mile. So I think that's a very important point to make. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and then the free hit as well. I feel as if the free hit could potentially work as well, but I think that is quite squad dependent. So, for example, if your squad is not exactly decimated, but you want to own Haaland in game week 6, then maybe free hitting in 6 with the view of having Salah back in game week 7 might be fine as well. So for me, because my team is such that I don't want most of my players from game week 7 onwards, wildcarding may be better, but for the free hitters, I'm not saying free hit is a bad idea in game week 6. I feel as if it's actually quite a good idea, especially for a lot of people who actually wildcarded already.
Yeah, I think it's a better idea for people who might have carded already. I don't love it. I think probably some of you are wondering why we're talking about this week rather than next week. But I think it's very important to know what you're going to do this week if you can, or at least have like a pretty set plan in place, because it really does affect your transfers this week and how you play the game next week. I'm not sure, but I think the main reason that you've said, like the difference you can see on the predicted points here between Haaland's fixtures and Salah's fixtures going forwards is such that I think I would rather just keep Haaland. So I don't love the free hit to then get Salah back in for all the reasons you've said. Do you think that you are likely to? Is there any chance you free hit 6? But like, if your team was better, do you think there's a chance you'd free hit 6?
Yes, okay. I feel as if it's a very feasible option, just not probably from my team.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was heading into game week 5, in the previous week, I was more certain about using the free hit in game week 6 as opposed to a wild card. But then it's a combination of the injuries and some of the players that I just want to get rid of, which have now sort of made me lean towards the wild card. But anyway, I also want to touch a bit on the bench boost as well.
Yeah.
I feel as if a lot of people can use the bench boost this week as well for those who, for example, have one free transfer at their disposal and who don't have too many injuries in their squad. For example, if Murillo was to be fit, I know personally there are a lot of people who are close to using a bench boost chip this week, and I personally feel as if you have the opportunity, you should get rid of it. Because
I'm almost definitely gonna use it this week, so that's encouraging to hear. And I have Murillo as well.
Yeah. So, for example, if Murillo is fit, then it presents you with an ideal opportunity to do it. Obviously, I would not go out of the way to use it. So, for example, if someone had my team, I have Tillemans and Strand Larson with just one free transfer, so I don't want to be taking hits or committing any kind of surgery to set my team up for the bench boost, which just doesn't make sense. But my point is, if you can get rid of it this week, then this week is a fine week to use it, because a lot of us have, for example, double Burnley defense, and they're playing at home to Forest, which is an okay fixture. So you might as well use it this week, then wildcard next week, and perhaps have a structure where you can spend more on the 11 as opposed to the bench. So, for example, I will be using the bench boost later, but then I will also be setting myself up with a strategy where I'm probably having a lot of bench depth, squad depth in my squad, just so that I can cover for the bench boost later. I would also like to say, for those who are wildcarding later, potentially using the bench boost close to the AFCON time would make sense because that's a time where you'll have 5 extra free transfers given by FPL according to the new rules. So maybe you can potentially use one of those weeks in and around those 5 free transfers where you can set yourself up for a bench boost. That's going to
That's
be my
good. That's a fair
strategy, I
point.
think.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do, I think. And for those who have a perfectly capable squad who have had a good start and who don't feel the need to wildcard, I recommend possibly holding on to the wildcard till, let's say, game week 13, which I feel as if is another week where there will be a few fixture swings, and by that time you will know whether a double is likely to happen at some point later on in the season. But again, this is very team dependent, and this is only a strategy for those people who are relatively well set for the upcoming fixture swings.
Yeah, I've seen quite a lot of talk about the bench boost in particular this week and it not being that strong. But I think we've got to remember that the first bench boost we play is not going to be like the bench boost that we've played in previous years. It's only going to be on well, most likely on single game week players. And like, when do you ever have 15 phenomenal fixtures in your team? It's just like it doesn't happen. I've seen some comments saying wait until the City and Arsenal fixture swings happen, i.e. after game week 6 or around that game week 6 time, and then they'll have really good fixtures, so then it's better to use the bench boost then. But for me, it doesn't really matter what the great players in my team are doing or the really expensive players in my team are doing. A lot of it is dependent on your 4 million goalkeeper and your 4 million defender, and when they have their best fixture, which for me is Estevan Dubravka, same as it is for you. And unless I'm going to wildcard and then bench boost, which I don't really want to do because I'd rather, as you said, get more money into my first 11. I think the only options are really Game Week 5, which is when I'm going to play it this week, or Game Week 8, which is Leeds at home. And then the rest is sort of, like you don't know exactly what's going to happen in any given single game week. But what do you think? Do you think it's like worth waiting for a time when you have 15 unbelievable fixtures, as I've seen quite a few comments say? I just don't really subscribe to that.
It's a tough one to answer because in your position, I think I would do it this week. I wouldn't think too far ahead because I feel as if you can bench boost without much opportunity cost. You should just get rid of it. But in game week 8, it's another opportunity when Burnley are playing at home to Leeds.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, yes, they are. And the thing with that is that I mentioned in our previous video as well that that's actually a fixture right after the international break, and
Exactly,
these international break injuries. But that time, I mean, who knows whether you have 15 playable players at your disposal or whether you are in a position where you are right now. So might as well take that opportunity when it presents itself rather than wait for something that might not happen later.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then finally, I think the last thing to touch on this video is just captaincy for this week. Is it as simple as captaining Salah? I think his performance in the Champions League last night probably
quite reassuring.
Yeah, reassured quite a few managers that, I don't know. Again, if you just look at the numbers of this season, I know he's not been at his best, but that's something. I don't know the exact numbers. I think he's got 2 goals, 1 assist in the league, and then a goal and assist last night. I mean, it's still a very impressive start to the season.
Yeah, the XG, the non-pen XG numbers have not been great. He scored from the spot last week, so when you look at his returns this season, you feel as if he's been a bit lucky in terms of getting late returns, whether they're from penalties or not. But generally, the elite numbers that we see from Salah in terms of non-pen XG per 90, etc., are not there. So that's a bit of a concern. But then again, the standout fixture is there this week. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to captain Salah without any sort of second thought. I also want to touch a bit more on some of the dilemmas that people are facing with regards to, let's say, Wirtz, Watkins, Mateta, all these guys. I mean, Wirtz and Watkins have Sunderland and Everton at home this week. They're not exactly fixtures you sell your attackers before. I can understand it's been very frustrating, but you play the fixtures. Simply, you can't really sell these players this week, despite what they've been doing in recent weeks. And Mateta is actually another one I want to touch upon because Glasner did mention that he needed a bit of rest and he hasn't really been taking his chances as such. But he's only played like 1 game this month, which was in the cup, really. And like I just don't feel as if he will get rested. I feel as if it was a comment which was made by Glasner to probably protect Mateta for his miss earlier in the game as opposed to anything else. So I would be quite surprised to see Mateta not start this fixture.
Yeah, I like the Mateta pick this week a lot. I think it's a plum fixture for him. Palace can go back to what they do best, which is sort of playing on the counter, and it could suit him really well. So I like Mateta. Yeah, I was just thinking there about Watkins, like looking at the predicted points on the right-hand side, just that first column. Who are you selling Watkins for this week? Like even Haaland is predicted to score fewer points than Watkins, which I know some of you in the comments probably going, well, that's never going to happen. It might. Like Arsenal are the best defence in Europe, and Watkins is playing Sunderland away. And now, obviously, Villa haven't been good, but maybe they're gonna have to turn the corner at some point. Emery will work something out. It could well be in this fixture. We will have to wait and see. But yeah, a very interesting week. I think it's a pretty transitional week for most, where like you want to do a lot with your team, but really, the best thing for quite a lot of teams, I think, is just to be patient and then go into next week with either more transfers or utilizing a chip, which you probably will be doing. Thank you very much, mate, as always, for the tips and advice on this one. Guys, let us know in the comments down below. What are you doing with your team this week? What are your plans for the upcoming week? Do you think Salah is the best captain as well? Want to hear your thoughts. Remember to get your AI recommended transfers down below, and we will catch you on the next one.